Warrior Chantelli. Hopefully y'all can hear me and everything, but the Lord been placing on me to start doing some Bible studying live, so we'll see how this goes. Lately, I feel like life been lifing, and a good Bible study that I wanted to hop in today is going to be Genesis. We're going to hop into Genesis 37. We're actually going to hop into the whole story of Joseph, because I feel like the story of Joseph definitely gives you motivation, because the fact that this man went through so much, I was looking like, how in the world did he keep the faith with all that going on? So I feel like this perfect for trials and tribulations. So yeah, we finna go ahead and hop into it, y'all. So let's go ahead. Genesis 37. Make sure my mic's sounding good. There we go. Move that over a little bit, because I feel like that's like not sounding what it should be sounding like. Okay, so Joseph dreams of greatness. First, before we get into, let me put a prayer. First off, Heavenly Father, I pray that you guide us in this word tonight, that whatever we're supposed to get out of it, that you give us that discernment, and that it's a good word, and that, you know, it help us in our daily lives. In your son Jesus' name we pray, Lord. Amen. All right. Joseph dreams of greatness. Now Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. This is a history of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bela and the sons of Zippah. His father's wives and Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all of his children, because he was the son of his old age. Also, he made a tunic of many colors, but when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him, and he could not speak peace able to him. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, "Please hear this dream which I've dreamed, that we were binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright, and indeed your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me." So he told it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you've dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow to the earth before you?" And his brothers even envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Ooh-wee. So jealousy can be a scary thing. This is why God says do not envy and do not have jealousy, because when you have jealousy, it builds up. And that's exactly what his brothers was doing. It was building up, and then eventually, it leads to a path of ruin, basically. So because this man wanted to say what he was dreaming, which we found out later on, it came to pass. But what you can learn from this scripture is, in my opinion, I felt like I've learned that jealousy really can bring out a really dark side with people if you allow the enemy to get in your head with jealousy. And that's exactly what happened. It can be your own family that's closest to you, and his brothers, they just really felt away, even though they were supposed to be his family. They just had this hatred in their heart. And this is why we can't have hatred, because when we do, that's when things start to get out of hand. Joseph sold by his brothers. Then his brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, Are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. So he said to him, Here I am. Then he said to him, Please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring him back word to me. So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron and went to Shechem. Now a certain man found him, and there he was wandering in the fields, and a man asked him, saying, What are you seeking? So he said, I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding their flocks. And the man said, They have departed from here, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. Now when they saw him afar, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Then he said to one another, Look, this dreamer is coming. Come therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say, Some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams. Man, oh man, like I said, that jealousy, that envy, that's exactly what happened with these brothers. See, they was not playing. They let that hatred and let the enemy get in their head, because they had that jealousy building up. So now they are trying to conspire against him, which is insane. So then, where do we leave off at? Here we go. So look, this dreamer is coming. Come therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say, Some wild beast had devoured him. We shall see what become of his dreams. But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands. God's grace right there. And said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said to them, Shield no blood, but cast him into this pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. So it came to pass, Joseph had came to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into the pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Israelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah told his brothers, What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let us not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened. Then Midianite traders passed by, so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. Then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. And he returned to his brothers and said, The lad is no more. Where shall I go? So they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of goats, and dipped the tunic in blood. Then they sent to the tunic of colors and brought it to their father and said, We have found this. Do you know whether it is your son's tunic or not? And he recognized it and said, It is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his son and all his daughters arose to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted and said, For I shall go down into the grave to my son in mourning. Though his father wept for him, now the Midianites had sold him into Egypt to Potiphar, the officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. So even after all that, Jacob still didn't, because it's like the brothers, they did all that. They let all that jealousy build up, and was expecting, Jacob to, just forget about Joseph, but instead it backfires and it just brings even more chaos and even more like ruin into their lives. And this is why we, again, can't just let jealousy and envy think that it's going to solve everything, because this is exactly what happens with their brothers. He just, oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this and make things better, but it made things worse. That's why God said we can't have a hardened heart and be envious towards people, because it backfires and it leads to a road of destruction, basically. And this is what's going on. Like, the father is basically like in ruins now. Like he can't even function, and like it's like everything is just depressing now. And they're just like, man, like we just made things worse because of our envy and stuff. So let's go ahead and head into the next verse here, 38, Judah and Tamar. It came to pass at that time that Judah departed from his brothers and visited a certain Adamite whose name was Hera. And Judah saw there a daughter, a certain Canaanite whose name was Shura, and he married her and went into her. So she conceived and bore a son, and he called his name She conceived again and bore a son, and she called him his name Ornan. And she conceived yet again and bore a son, and called his name Shelah. He was at Sheshib when she bore him. Then Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him. And Judah said to Onan, go into your brother's wife and marry her, and raise her and an heir to your brother. But Onan knew that the heir would not be his, and came to pass when he went to his brother's wife that he had admitted on the ground, lest he should give an heir to his brother, and the thing which he did displeased the Lord, therefore he killed him also. Man, God don't be playing. You gotta look. If you ain't obedient, he gonna make sure. Like, Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow in your father's house till my son Shelah is grown, for he has said, lest he also die like his brothers. And Tamar went and dwelt in his father's house. Now in the process of time, the daughter of Shu, Judah's wife, died, and Judah was confronted and went up to his sheepers at Timah, he and his friend Hera the Odamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, look at your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. So she took off her widow's garment, covered herself with veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place which was on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, because she had covered her face. Then he turned to her by the way and said, please let me come into you. For he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. So she said, what will you give me, that you may come into me? And he said, I will send a young goat from the flock. So she said, will you give me a pledge to send it? Then he said, what pledge shall I give to you? So she said, your signet and cord and your staff that is in your hand. Then he gave them to her, and he went into her, and she conceived by him. So she arose and went away and laid aside her veil and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent to the goat by the hand of his friend Adamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he did not find her. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, where's the harlot who was openly by the roadside? And they said, there was no harlot in this place. So he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. Also the man of the place, there was no harlot in this place. Then Judah said, let her take them for herself, lest we be shamed, for I sent this young goat, and you have not found her. And it came to pass about 3 months after that, Judah was sold, saying, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. Furthermore, she is with a child by harlotry. So Judah said, bring her and let her be burned. Then she was brought out. She sent her father-in-law, saying, by the man to whom these belong, I am with child. And she said, please determine all these are the signet and cord and staff. So Judah acknowledged them and said, she has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah my son, and he never knew her again. Now it came to pass at that time for giving birth, that behold, twins were in the womb. And then so it was said, she was giving birth, and one put his hand, and the midnight took a scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, this one came out first. Then it happened, and he drew back his hand, and his brother came out unexpectedly and said, how did you break through? This breach be upon you. Therefore his name called Perez. Afterward his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was called Zerah. It's like all that complications. Like, it's like, in that, what I took from that is that even though, you know, Judah did what he did to Joseph, God's still showing grace. But at the same time, he's still going through a lot. Like, he's also still, you know, getting that what he reaping, what he sowed. If you get what I'm coming from. If you really think about the verse, like all these complications, and then he ran into that harlot, and you know how she just deceived him. Now he's stuck with a whole kid with her. And I just feel like it's kind of like he's reaping what he sowed of what he did to Joseph. But at the same time, God is still showing that grace, because he does, you know, show grace. But he's still reaping what he sowed, from how he did Joseph at the beginning by selling him off. And then it's just like he doesn't even have too much of a conscience with it. He's just living his life and thinking everything gonna be sweet. But it don't be like that. So the next verse we gonna hop into is Joseph, a slave in Egypt. Genesis 39. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, excuse me if I'm saying that wrong, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of guard, an Egyptian, brought him from Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian, and his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to his hand prosper in his hand. Favor, favor. So Joseph found favor in his sight and served him. He made him oversee of his house, and now that he had made to put under his authority. So it was from time that he had made him overseer of his house, and all that he had. The Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. Thus he left all he had in Joseph's hand, and he did not know what he had except for the bread which he had ate. Now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance, and it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph and said, lie with me. But he refused and said to his master's wife, look, my master does not know what is with me in this house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There is no one greater in this house than I, nor he has kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? So it was as she spoke to Joseph day by day that he did not heed her, to lie with her, or to be with her. But it happened about this time when Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside, that she caught him by his garment and saying, lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside. And so it was when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, that she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, see, he has brought in us a Hebrew to mock us. He came in to me to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And it happened when he had heard that I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled and went outside. That enemy, man. So she said, kept his garment until his master came home. Then she spoke to him with words like this, saying, the Hebrew servant who she brought to us came into me to mock me. So it happened as I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled outside. So it was when his master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, saying, your servant did not your servant did to me as this matter, that his anger was aroused. Then Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined. And he was there in the prison, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, it was his doing. The keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. So I got a couple of things to say about that verse. That was a lot. I love that. I love that verse a lot, actually. First off, as you can see, even when you're going through it, God shows favor. And that's what he did. Joseph, he got sold off, and instead of being treated like a regular slave, God showed favor. And God will do that even when you're going through it. He's still going to be by your side and, still get you through whatever it is that you're going through and make a way out of no way. And that's exactly what he did. But, of course, the enemy's still going to try. And that's exactly what he did with Pharaoh's wife. She, trying to tempt him, trying to basically get him to step out of line and disobey God. And you know what? That's where we got to really have faith. And he reminded himself, he's like, why would I do this? This means I'm going to be sinning against God. So obedience is key. And that's exactly what Joseph did. Even though he a prisoner and going through it, he could have easily been like, well, man, I'm a whole prisoner, and, honestly, why did God let this happen to me? But he's still being obedient. He's still saying he not for to sin against his father. And as you can see, the enemy still throwing stuff at him. Basically, he got put in the whole prison and in a jail cell, but God still showing favor because he was obedient. And he's not being treated like a regular prisoner because of his obedience. So even when we're going through it, we still need to keep obedience, and we still need to trust God. And that's exactly what Joseph did in this verse. Even though the enemy tempted him, because the enemy is going to tempt you, and the enemy is going to try to throw everything in their mom at you. And that's exactly what he did to Joseph. He was like, yeah, I'm going to throw this fine woman at her. And he was not going. He was like, you know what? Nope. Even though I'm going through it, I'm still for to sit here and listen to my father and be obedient and know that my father has not forsaken me. And that's what I love about that verse, that he still remained strong in faith and he didn't give in. He didn't give in to the enemy. And that's what we have to do. We can't give in to the enemy, no matter what is going on in our lives. All right, so let's see. We got Genesis 40, the prisoner's dreams. It came to pass after these things that the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their lord, the king of Egypt, and Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief butler and the chief baker. So he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard in the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, so they were in custody for a while. Then the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, had a dream, both of them. Each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with its own interpretation. I'm probably saying that wrong. Interpretation. I think that's how you say it. Interpretation. I think interpretation. Yeah, I think that's how you say it, y'all. My fault. And Joseph came into them in the morning and looked at them and saw that they were sad. So he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in the custody of his lord's house, saying, "Why do you look so sad today?" And they said to him, "We each have had a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. Oh, interpretation. That's what it is. I knew it was something. Interpretation. Okay. Pharaoh's officers bore him in the custody of his Lord's house, saying, "Why do you look so sad today?" And they said to him, "We each have had a dream, and there is no interpreter of it." So Joseph said to them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, please." And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph and said to him, "Behold, in my dream a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches. It was as though it budded, the blossom shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. Then Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." And Joseph said to him, "This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Now within 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your hand and restore it to your place, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to former matter when you were his butler. But remember me when it's well with you, and please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh, and give me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away from the land of Hebrews, and I also have done nothing here that they should put me into the dungeon." When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said to Joseph, I also was in my dream, and there were 3 white baskets on my head. In the upper almost basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them out of basket on my head. So Joseph answered and said, "This is an interpretation of it. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days Pharaoh will lift off your head and from you and hang you in a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh from you." Dang. He told him straight up. Oh, man. Child. Now it came to pass on the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast for all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler, and out of the chief bakers among his servants, he then restored the chief butler to his butlership again. And he placed the cup of Pharaoh's hand, but he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted them. Yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. So I feel like Joseph definitely portrayed not having a spirit of fear, because God did not give us the spirit of fear, even though that dream was pretty much saying that he was for to die. Basically, he still told it straight up to him and was like, "You know what, hey, this is what's for to happen. You may not like what I'm for to say, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you the truth." And I feel like that's a perfect portrayal of God did not give us the spirit of fear, and he still told it how it is, even though, yeah, it could have meant death, it could have meant a lot of things, but he trusted God and he told the truth, and he told him straight up, this is what's going to happen. So definitely keep in mind, we should not have the spirit of fear, no matter how the situation or the outcome may look, or what may happen. We got to trust God. So spirit of fear is from the enemy. All right, so Genesis 41, Pharaoh's dreams. Then it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream, and behold, he stood by the river. Suddenly there came up out of the river 7 cows, fine looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them out of the river, ugly and gaunt, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the ugly and the gaunt cows ate up the 7 fine-looking and fat cows. So Pharaoh awoke. He slept, and then he dreamed a second time. And suddenly 7 heads of grain came up on one stalk, plump and good. Then behold, 7 Dan heads be lighted by the east wind sprang up after them. And the 7 Dan heads devoured 7 plump and full heads. So Pharaoh awoke, and indeed it was a dream. Now it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all his wise men, and Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them for Pharaoh. Then a chief butler spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my faults this day, when Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me in custody in the house of captain of guard, both me and the chief baker. We each had a dream, and one night he and I, each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. Now there was a young Hebrew man with us there, a servant of the captain of the guard, and we told him that he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. So pause for a second. I want to say something about that verse real quick. So the last section, he was doing these interpretations for the butler, the chief butler. And Joseph was pleading. He's like, man, like, I'm over here helping you. Please let me out. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. I didn't even do anything wrong. Like, why am I even here? And he was pleading and really hoping him doing that was going to get him out. And he pretty much forgot all about him. He didn't try to get him out. He basically used him. He basically was like, you know what, okay, you did your job, back to the cell. You ain't gotta worry about me no more. And hey, you're pretty much for to stay where you're at. So, and I find it very interesting how God worked it out still, because him doing that favor for him led to someone higher, which is the Pharaoh, who has way more power than the butler. He's for to help Pharaoh, who we for to find out is actually going to help Joseph. So patience is key. I feel like that's also a way of having patience, because Joseph could have easily got frustrated and was like, you know what, I didn't help this man and he used me. He could have easily held anger and rejected to help the Pharaoh, but he didn't. Instead, you know what, it's okay. I know God gonna make a way out of no way, which he did, because he used that man using him to get to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh worked it out where, he's way, like I said, he has more power than a butler. So it's like everything happens for a reason, even though it may look like a loss at that time, because that's exactly what it looked like. It looked like a loss at that time with the butler, but it wound up not even being a loss. It wound up being a win. God used the butler, and then he wound up making it a victory for Joseph in the long run. So I love how God be doing that. Like, it may look like in your life right now that you're losing and nothing is working out, but we have to remember that everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And that's exactly what this portrays. So it may look like it's bad right now. It may look like it's not working out right now. But God is very intentional. I've learned personally in my life that he's very intentional. And that's exactly what he was doing in this verse. He was very intentional. He's just hoping that you gonna be faithful, that you gonna be strong, that you gonna remain, and that you gonna trust him. Because that's all what it is. You have to trust him. So I really wanted to point that out. We have to keep that faith. We have to be patient. And that's what Joseph was doing. He was patient. Wasn't working out. Come be patient. I'm not going to hold a grudge. I'm going to trust God. I know he for to work something out. And that's exactly what he doing. So, all right, y'all, let's get back into that verse 41. Where did we leave off at? Where was it? Okay, yeah. So Genesis 41 verse 12. Here we go. 12. Now there was a young Hebrew man with us there, a servant of captain of guard, and we told him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to pass, just as he interpreted for us, so it happened. He restored me to my office and hanged him. Then the Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon, and he shaved, changed his clothing, came to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said to Joseph, I've had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it. So Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, in my dream I stood on the bank of river. Suddenly 7 cows came up out of the river, fine looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and gaunt, such ugliness as I've never seen in all the land of Egypt. And the gaunt and ugly cows ate up the first 7, the fat cows. When they had eaten them up, no one have known that they had eaten them, for they were just as ugly as the beginning. So I awoke. Also I saw in my dream, and suddenly 7 heads came up, one stalk full and good. Then behold, 7 heads withered in, and be lighted by the east wind sprang up after them. And then the 10 heads devoured the 7 good heads. So I told this to the magicians, but there was no one who can explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. The dreams are one. And the 7 thin and ugly cows which came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty heads be lighted by the east wind are 7 years of famine. This is the one thing which I have spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. Indeed, 7 years of great plenty will come throughout of the land, but after that, 7 years of famine will arise, and all of the plenty will be forgotten. Wow. The land of Egypt and the famine will deplete the land. So the plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following, for it will be very severe. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice, because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of all those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of the Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. Then that the food shall be a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during the famine. Ooh-wee. That's a lot. That's a lot. Let's see how Pharaoh gonna take that. That is a lot. So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And the Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, it is much as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house and all my people, and shall be ruled according to his word. Amen. Only in regard to the ground will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you all over the land of Egypt. Oh my goodness. That is a whole big blessing. A whole big blessing. Like, man, oh man, oh man, man, oh man, oh man. Like, this dude came from being a whole slave, sold off. God was still with him through it all, you know, still by his side. It may not have been getting out of jail or getting out of slavery just yet, but he still was by his side, showing the little favor, the little things. Because like I said, we always got to count the little things, the little blessings. And that's exactly what he did. It was little blessings each step of the way, even though he was going through it, each step of the way, he still had those blessings. He still had that favor. And for his patience, for him trusting God, for him not giving up, not giving in to the temptations, because of course the enemy gonna throw temptations at you when you really going through it, because that's when he know when you are your weakest. And that's exactly what happened. And he didn't give in. And him not giving in, well, basically got him to get this big blessing. Like, he was blessed by the Lord for his obedience, for his patience, for his trust. And he wound up getting more than what he was bargaining for, because he was not expecting to get the whole dang on land, and he did. And that's beautiful. And that's what God would do if we remain faithful, remain trustworthy of him, and really know that he is going to make a way out of no way. And that's exactly what he did. He made a way out of no way. And him waiting on the Lord, even though it may seem hard, even though it may seem like it ain't gonna get no better, even though you feel like, man, like, where you at, God? His timing is perfect. It's perfect. And that's exactly what happened here. His timing was perfect. And even though it felt like it was a lot of losses, because it seemed like, he was losing at a point. Man, I ain't helped these people and I'm still in this jail cell. But he didn't give up. He still trusted God. Due to trials, due to tribulations, even when stuff was not making sense, even though it seemed like, okay, well, this is the way out. This gotta be it. Because sometimes God, it may seem like something is the way. But it why not be in the way? But we can't get discouraged, because God is still working behind the scenes, and that's exactly what he did here. Let's see. Joseph raised to power. So I think that's a good stopping point. We is definitely going to get more into that. I feel like how long I've been going live? For 42 minutes. Okay, I see it. All right, so I hope you guys definitely got something from this live stream. And that, yeah, you can definitely look to those verses to remind you that, sometimes we can go through stuff, but God is still behind the scenes working everything out for our better good. And that's exactly, what he did in Joseph's case. And he can do it for you too. We just got to hang in now. No, life been lifing lately. Shoot, I know I've been lifing, but I just have to really just take a second and be like, no, God made a way out of no way last time. He gonna make a way out of no way this time. And that's why we have to keep reminding ourselves. So, love you guys. I'm going to try to stay consistent and do this every week, maybe twice a week. Whatever the Lord put on my heart, because, yeah, he definitely wants me to do this. So I know over time I'll get more consistent with it. So, yeah, I look forward to doing this again. Maybe tomorrow, or next week, Tuesday again, same time, 8 o'clock. So, yeah, love you guys, and I'll see y'all in the next live stream. Yes, y'all have a blessed night.